Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. Now, if you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. It helps us out a ton, and don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Now, if you're looking for my MLB best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday, August 10th. First up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the New York Mets. TJ Zeuch and Taijuan Walker are your projected starters for this contest. Now, Robert Duggar was originally supposed to start this game. However, he was placed on the IL, so now Zeuch gets his first action at the big leagues in 2022. We've seen him in the major leagues before. 2019 through 2021, he had some innings with the Toronto Blue Jays each season. Now, last year with the Blue Jays, 15 innings. He had a 6.6 ERA and a 9.10 FIP, giving up a lot of home runs and walks and not really striking at a lot of batters. This year in the minor leagues, the strikeout numbers are a lot better. However, the walks are still a concern. And with the Cardinals organization, 5.12 walks per nine. With the Cincinnati Reds, 4.03. That is concerning. The Mets are a very, very patient lineup. They don't strike out a lot. They walk a lot. They get on base a lot. And against right-handed pitching especially, I do worry about Zeuch in this matchup. And Cincinnati Reds bullpen also not in the best shape right now. On the other side, Taijuan Walker did struggle quite a bit in his last outing, and really in his last three outings, he's starting to get hit a little bit more. We saw last year, Walker had a fantastic first half of the year, really struggled in the second half, and we're starting to see that now with Walker. His last three outings, at least 3 earned runs, at least 1 home run. Strikeout numbers are going down. I don't know if I can back the Mets here at this kind of price. I do like their offense, but Taijuan Walker a little scary right now. I'm just going to take the over in this Reds-Mets matchup. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Jeffrey Springs and Brandon Woodruff are your projected starters. Now, I really don't understand why the Brewers are this big of favorites. You know, look at these two teams' records, basically identical. You look at these two starters. Obviously, Woodruff has had a little bit more time in the major leagues and has accomplished a little bit more, but you look at Springs, a 2.5 ERA this year, and the Milwaukee Brewers are struggling so much against left-handed pitching. I just don't understand how they can be this big of favorites. You know, you look at the Brewers in the last 30 days, team OPS-wise against lefties, they're ranked 25th in the big leagues. You look at isolated power numbers, they're ranked 29th. They're striking out a ton. The highest strikeout rate against lefties in the last month, 28.8% as a team. I think Springs pitches well here. I think the Rays can find a few runs on Brandon Woodruff, although I do like him overall. It was concerning to see him only earn 3 strikeouts against the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that's striking out left and right this season. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays here. I think we're getting a really good price with the underdog. Give me the Rays on the money line. In our next matchup, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Chicago Cubs with Justin Steele and Josiah Gray on the mound. I have to say, this is not my favorite card. Wednesday's card, a little tough. We don't see a lot of value, a lot of big favorites, and this is one of those games where I'm just not crazy about it. We see the Cubs big favorites, and Josiah Gray, you know, he's been said to be really good on the road and really good in day games, struggles in night games and struggles at home, but we saw last time out on the road he gave up 4 homers and 6 earned runs, so I'm not sure what to believe now. This will be a day game for Josiah Gray. He's been pitching really well in day games this year, but I mean, Justin Steele's also having a really solid season and a really strong second half of the year as well. And you look at his last 2 outings against the Marlins and Giants, hasn't given up a single earned run, 16 strikeouts in his last 8 1/3 innings. That is very impressive. He's limiting walks as well, which was the big struggle for him early on in the year. So, you know, Justin Steele's pitching well. Josiah Gray's just not in great form. Even though this is a day game, I don't think it matters enough. Give me the Chicago Cubs here on the run line. Next up, we head to Oakland as the Angels take on the A's. No official lineup for this one as the Angels have not announced a starter quite yet. Paul Blackburn going for the Athletics in this one. Now, it was really surprising to see just how different the home and road splits were for Paul Blackburn this year. Really hadn't taken a deep look at it quite yet, but when you look at him on the road, 6-1 with a 2.12 ERA and 72 1/3 innings pitched, a 216 opponent's batting average, only 54 strikeouts in those innings. I'd like to see that number rise. However, at home this year, only 39 innings, so a lot smaller of a sample, but an 8.31 ERA, a 1-5 record, a 317 opponent's batting average. He does not like pitching at home this year. 8 starts at home. This will be his 9th, and he did struggle quite a bit in his last start on the road against the Los Angeles Angels. 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned, 4 homers in that one. Now, the A's still won that game. That was the game where the Angels hit 7 home runs, yet still lost 8-7. However, you're not going to win a game if you give up 4 home runs very often. And I think the Angels may have Blackburn's number. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Angels here in a lean on the money line. Start spreading the news. The New York Yankees are taking on the Seattle Mariners. Nestor Cortez and Robbie Ray are your starters. Pair of lefties going at it in this one. Now, the Mariners' numbers against lefties offensively hasn't been too bad in the last 30 days. Top 15 in team OPS. The isolated power numbers not as good, but when you look at the New York Yankees, the Bombers, they are crushing lefties. Number 1 in isolated power, 267 isolated power. Number 1 in team OPS with a 940 team OPS. A WRC plus of 167 for the Bombers against lefties. It's about 200 plate appearances in the last month. They don't strike out much against lefties. They earn a lot of walks. They're actually number 2 in walk percentage and one of the lower strikeout percentages as a team. Robbie Ray is pitching well. He had a good start last time out. Wasn't enough for the Mariners to grab a win. But with the Yankees hitting lefties the way they have, and Nestor Cortez pitching well for the Yankees this year, I'm going to have to take the Yankees in this spot on the money line at a pretty good price on the road. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres hosting the San Francisco Giants. Sean Manaea for the Padres. Jacob Junis, or as I like to call him, Jakob Junis, going for the Giants here. And Sean Manaea has certainly struggled recently. When you look at his ERA now at 4.74, he gave up 8 earned runs. Didn't give up a home run, which is a little surprising as he's had issues with the long ball, but no homers allowed last start. 4 innings, 10 hits against the Dodgers. That was an 8-1 Padres loss. And recently, this season, 18 home runs allowed in 114 innings pitched. He's given up at least 1 homer in 4 of his last 5. And the strikeout numbers aren't bad for Manaea, but he's facing a lineup in San Francisco that can hit lefties pretty well, even though the Giants have had their struggles in the last month or so. Giants are still up there against lefties in team OPS and isolated power. You look at team OPS, they have an 802 team OPS. It's number 3 in baseball. Isolated power ranked 3rd as well. Strikeout rate a little bit high for San Francisco, but I still think they'll be able to get to Manaea for a few runs here. On the other side, I really like the Padres lineup to break out here against Jacob Junis. Jacob Junis started the season strong. His ERA was below 3, starting to regress a little bit. We saw last start 3 2/3 innings against the Dodgers, 5 hits, 3 earned runs. He did have 5 strikeouts, but walked 2 batters as well. The Padres are hitting righties better recently. Obviously, the run scoring department hasn't really been there for San Diego, but I still trust this lineup. Very, very talented from top to bottom. They're number 8 in the last 30 days in isolated power against righties, number 10 in team OPS. So I think we see both teams get on the board early. I like the Padres to win this game, but I'm going to take the over as the better play in this one. Next up, we see the Miami Marlins taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Sandy Alcantara and Noah Syndergaard are your projected starters. Now, I was able to watch that game between the Marlins and Phillies back on July 15th, the last start that Alcantara had against these Phillies. And Sandy's final line, 8 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts. Very, very dominant line. He was dominant through the first 6 innings, 7 innings or so. But as the start kept going and as he got later into that game, the Phillies were starting to pick up on him a little bit. They were hitting him hard. They were working the counts. They were able to get a couple walks, couple hits, and score the 2 runs that were necessary for the Phillies to win. So even though Alcantara only 2 runs allowed in 8 innings, the Marlins only scored 1 run in that game. That was enough for a Phillies win. And that's where I worry about the Marlins right now. Their offense is even worse than it was back in the middle of July. They are not scoring a lot of runs. They're not really getting on base either. And although Noah Syndergaard's not my favorite option on the mound, I think he's good enough here for the Phillies bats to score 2-3 runs in Alcantara. And that might be enough for a Phillies win. So I'm going to lean towards the under, but since the total is set so low, there's not really much room for us there. I'm just going to take the Philadelphia Phillies here on the money line. The Marlins, they got to score runs to win games, and I don't know if they can do that here. Give me the Phillies. In our next contest, we see the Battle of the Birds in the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Baltimore Orioles. Dean Kremer and Jose Barrios are your starters. Now, Dean Kremer's numbers look good on paper. 3.43 ERA this year, but a 5.04 expected ERA and a 4.67 xFIP. Doesn't have a lot of strikeouts, only 6.71 Ks per 9. He's given up at least 1 home run in 3 of his last 4 starts, and he's facing a very, very tough Toronto Blue Jays lineup, especially against righties. 814 team OPS in the last 30 days the Blue Jays have against those right-handers. That's number 2 in baseball. They're also in the top 15 in isolated power against those right-handed pitchers. So I like the Blue Jays to be able to get to Kremer here. Jose Barrios, a 5.19 ERA, but his expected numbers are a little bit better than Kremer's. His xFIP is pretty low compared to his current ERA, and although he's had his struggles on the road, I still think the Blue Jays bats are going to be good enough for him to get the win here. Jose Barrios somehow has an 8-4 record with that 5.19 ERA. It's because the run support has been there for him. I like this matchup for Toronto's offense just a little bit more than the Orioles. I like the over in this game, and I like the Blue Jays to win it on the money line. In our next matchup, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Boston Red Sox. Nick Pivetta and Kyle Wright are your starters. For me, this game, in terms of the side, is a toss-up. The Atlanta Braves, I do believe they should be favored. Kyle Wright's had better numbers overall. The Braves bullpen, I believe, is better in the lineup, obviously contributing a lot more than Boston's lately. But Kyle Wright is just in a little bit of a funk right now, and his ERA is above 3 now. He's given up 6 earned runs and 4 homers in his last start against the Mets, at least 1 home run in each of his last 5 games. The base hits starting to pile up, at least 7 hits in 4 of his last 5 starts. Strikeout numbers are going down. The walks are starting to go up for him a little bit as well. So I do worry about that at a hitter-friendly ballpark like Fenway. The Red Sox haven't done a ton offensively, but we still know this is a pretty talented lineup with guys like Bogarts, Devers, and JD Martinez. I still think that Wright is in trouble in this outing, but I can't really back Nick Pivetta here either. The Red Sox bullpen has also really struggled. And you look at Pivetta, 4.51 ERA. Last time out, he gave up 3 earned, a homer, 7 hits against the Kansas City Royals of all teams. He's given up at least 1 home run in 4 of his last 5, and at least 2 home runs in 3 of his last 5. The walks are still there. The strikeouts are there as well, but at least 7 hits in each of his last 5 starts. I can't trust him against this really good Braves lineup, especially in the power department against righties. Give me the over in this Braves-Red Sox matchup. In our next matchup, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Detroit Tigers with Aaron Savale and Drew Hutchinson on the mound for this one. Hutchinson a 4.37 ERA, but an even worse 5.07 xFIP and 5.35 expected ERA. A very low strikeout rate at 5.66 Ks per 9, and a pretty high walk rate, I would say very high walk rate at 4.37 walks per 9. That scares me quite a bit. You're facing a Guardians lineup that's good against right-handed pitching. They don't strike out much at all, and they do earn a lot of walks at the plate. The strikeout percentage is one of the lowest in baseball against righties in the last month, 18.9%. I think Cleveland can get to Hutchinson, and although Savali's not my favorite option to back, especially after his injury, the Tigers' offense just hasn't done a lot against righties this year. I think the Guardians can get to Hutchinson early and often. I like the Guardians to win this game on the road. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Kansas City Royals with Johnny Cueto and Chris Bubic on the mound for this one. Despite Johnny Cueto's ERA being at 2.91 and the Royals offense not really doing much this year against right-handed pitching, the total for this one is still set pretty high at 9, and I agree with the odds makers. I like the over. I think we see a pretty high-scoring game. I think both teams can show up here offensively. Chris Bubic is a lefty, and the White Sox notoriously good at hitting left-handed pitching, but as of late, not necessarily the case. However, they are still earning a lot of walks at the plate against lefties, and Bubic has had issues with his control at times. That concerns me for his game in this one. And Bubic overall, a 5.27 ERA, has still struggled mostly this year. He's pitching deeper into ball games, getting some valuable innings for Kansas City, but still giving up a good amount of earned runs each start. Johnny Cueto on the other side, giving up a lot of base hits. And when you look at his expected batting average this year, one of the worst in terms of starting pitchers and well below average. He gave up 11 base hits last time out in 8 innings against the Rangers. He's given up at least 7 in 3 of his last 4, giving up some home runs as well in that stretch. And I think the Royals can get to him here. They're a pretty, I would say, contact first team. They don't really hit a lot of homers other than guys like Salvador Perez and MJ Melendez, but this is a pretty speedy team, a team that's playing some of their younger guys, letting them get a chance to develop, and I think this is a perfect opportunity against a guy like Johnny Cueto that's more contact first, doesn't really strike out a lot of batters. This is a good opportunity for the Royals offense to have a little bit of a breakout game here. I'm going to take the over in this White Sox-Royals matchup. Now, next up, we're going to see one of the more lopsided pitching matchups in 2022. The Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros, Glenn Otto and Justin Verlander. To me, the Astros are huge favorites, minus 300. I understand if you don't want to touch this game personally, I'll be staying away from them just because there's absolutely no value. But the only choice I see available is taking the Astros on the run line, maybe laying 2.5 runs, maybe laying 3.5 runs, who knows. Trying to get a better price in this one. Verlander has been fantastic, a 1.73 ERA. Glenn Otto has really struggled, a ERA above 5 this year, walking a lot of batters, giving up home runs galore. His last start was pretty good against the White Sox, but you're not facing the White Sox here. The Astros have crushed righties this season at home. I think it's going to be a bad outing for Otto. I think Verlander continues to deal. So I'm going to take the Houston Astros here on the run line, but like I said, absolutely no value at this kind of price. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Colorado Rockies. Jose Quintana and Kyle Freeland are your starters for this one. Now, this is the type of game where I think it's a great example of just not trying to memorize statistics for teams and for pitchers, because these things are going to change with every single game this year. when you look in the last 30 days, somebody might say, oh, the Rockies are probably hitting lefties well. They've hit lefties well all year. However, that's just not the case in the last month. 21st in team OPS, 16th in isolated power. It's similar to the numbers I mentioned a couple days ago with the Atlanta Braves. They were a lineup that was absolutely demolishing left-handed pitching, but as of late, they're 26th in isolated power. So it's really important to keep checking statistics. Don't try to just memorize it and, the White Sox hit lefties all the time. They're going to hit a lefty tonight. Things are always going to change in baseball, especially with the trade deadline, players moving all over the place, numbers change, so make sure you're always staying up to date with those numbers, and that's why I look at the last 30 days rather than talking about the entire season's worth of data, because things do change as the season continues, injuries, trades, and so many things. So when you look at this matchup, the Cardinals are definitely hitting lefties a lot better than the Rockies are right now. The Cardinals, in terms of isolated power, they're in the top 15 at 13th, but in team OPS, much better, ranked 5th with a 784 team OPS against lefties. Kyle Freeland does not pitch well at Coors Field. His ERA at Coors above 5 this year. Jose Quintana, not my favorite option on the mound, but I will say this matchup does benefit him as he keeps the ball in the yard mostly. His average exit velocity and hard hit percentage are pretty good this year, so I do think he will pitch well in this spot, and I like the St. Louis Cardinals here on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Madison Bumgarner and Mitch Keller are your starters. To me, this game is just based on value. I just don't understand how the Diamondbacks can be this much of favorites. I think this is a good young team. They play very well at home, and I could see them winning this game, no doubt about it. But laying this kind of price on the money line and laying a -1.5 and only getting a little bit of plus money, if any, I just can't get behind that. Mitch Keller hasn't been my favorite pitcher, but neither is Madison Bumgarner. Both of these starters' expected numbers aren't the best. One could argue Mitch Keller's numbers are a little bit better in terms of xFIP and Sierra. So I just don't really think I can lay this kind of price with Arizona. At some point, you got to say, where's the value lie? And although the D-backs could certainly win this game, I don't think they win it enough for this price to be worthy. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates here plus the 1.5. A little bit of a tongue twister there. Pittsburgh Pirates plus the 1.5. However, I think that's the most valuable play in my opinion. Getting a pretty good price, getting 1.5 runs in a game between two teams that haven't had the best seasons this year. Give me Pittsburgh plus 1.5. In our final game of the night, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. We're going to see Sonny Gray going for the Twins. No official starter for the Dodgers quite yet. I do worry about Sonny Gray in this spot and the Minnesota Twins pitching staff. Sonny Gray walked 5 batters in 5 innings last start against the Blue Jays. Didn't have a lot of control. And when you look at his numbers, he had a pretty good Ks per 9 rating this season. However, when you look at his whiff rate and chase rate, below average by a lot. 18th percentile in whiff rate or whiff percentage, and bottom 20th percentile in chase rate. So one could argue that the strikeouts he's earning are a little bit unsustainable. And you look at his velocity is way down, bottom 19th percentile in fastball velocity, hard hit percentage at bottom 35th percentile. The Dodgers are crushing righties this year. In the last 30 days, you name it, they are in the top 10 in isolated power against righties, number 3 in team OPS against righties, and I think they can get to Gray here early and often. We know this Minnesota Twins bullpen not the best. They were able to get a big reliever in Jorge Lopez at the deadline, but I don't think it's enough in this one. I think the Dodgers get to Gray early. I think it's going to be an early exit for him, and I like the Dodgers to win this game big. I'll lay the run line with Los Angeles. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday, August 10th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.